Morning. I've got to change that, haven't I? It's getting a bit boring. In fact, it's not even morning, it's afternoon. I've come up with an idea that might make my channel a little bit more interesting. What I've decided to do is concentrate on a specific bird on each video and show you what equipment I used, what settings I used, the photos I took, and then obviously getting back and then editing them to the final product. It might make it a little bit more interesting. Obviously, I might not get all the shots of a specific bird that I want in one day, so I might need to do this video over 2 or 3 visits. So you might see a bit of change in the weather conditions and what I'm wearing. So that's kind of the plan. So today I've come over to Middleton Lakes, last minute kind of decision, in hope of catching the herons. I've only got a couple of hours, then I've got to go and pick the wife up, and there's nothing here. And before I set out, there was blue skies. Now it's raining. So I've come to the first kind of bridge at Middleton Lakes, and the tree in the middle is where most of the herons are roosting. And there's obviously some little trees in the background, but there's normally a lot of action in the closest tree to us. Now I came up earlier this week and last week, and there was a lot of herons there. And today, as you can see, there's none. The day I decide I want to do a more interesting video, there's nothing there. But if they've gone, I'm pretty sure they'll come back. So I'm going to hang about for a bit. As I said earlier, the weather isn't the best and it's grey, but I just want to show, if they do turn up, what kind of photos I can get with the conditions the way they are. So you can see there's a nest right there, and no herons. Going great this is, isn't it? A video about herons without the herons. Been here half hour now, nothing. But I have zoomed in on that nest with the 200 to 600, and there's a chick in it, I think. Well, I just noticed I've had a big dot right in the middle of my camera lens on the one I'm shooting on. I did actually clean this one before I came out today, but I didn't do that one. And I've just touched it with a microfiber cloth just to see if I can remove the dot, but I probably made it worse, because I did that before and put loads of little bits all over it. It needs a good blow with my blower, and I left it on the bed because I thought, I don't need that, I've already done it. Right, so I've showed you where the herons are. All I've got to do now is try and take some shots of them. Camera handheld, I don't use a monopod or my tripod. That way I can kind of follow the birds around a lot easier, up and down. The settings I've got is I've got the tracking mode on and the bird eye focus. With the tracking mode for these, I'll use like a center spot, and I'll put it on the bird to start with, wait for the bird to take off. And once the bird takes off, it should have locked on by then, and then just follow it. My ISO is on auto, obviously to try and keep it as low as I can. And I'm using a teleconverter, so I lose a stop, I think it's a stop or a stop and a half in light. So the aperture on this at the lowest comes out at about f.9, which is normally okay as long as there's nothing in between it. Shutter speed is my normal run and gun 2,500 of a second, but I'm going to actually lower that to 1,600 because I took some shots the other day at 1,600 and they came out okay, so obviously it'll reduce the noise. So I'm going to lower it to 1,600. and I think I'm going to try and go with those settings when and if they do turn up and come back. Okay, so here's a tip. Come in the morning, a lot more action in the morning. There's very little going on. I've probably been here for about an hour now, and it's dead. There's been a few fly over, but none in the nest. That's the closest, which is the best one for the shots. So yeah, I'd advise going in the morning, because every time I've been in the morning, it's been really, really busy. Whether they just disappear from the nests midday, I don't know. I mean, it's about 2 o'clock now, I think. I'm not going to give up. I will find or manage to get at least a couple of photos today of a heron, and I'll show you how we edit it. But here are some of my favourite ones from the past, my favourite heron shots I've took. I'll show you them, and I'll leave you the details of the camera settings. I've took a couple of some flying over, but they've kind of been going at a mad angle away from me, so not the best shots. If there is one, I will run you through the editing process of it, but I should have started this little mini series of how I photograph specific birds with the mallards, because there's a little pool here, and the mallards are fighting. Obviously males are fighting over the females, so there's quite a bit of action going on down here, which I've took more photos of than the actual herons. But I'll pop one of them too in the video, if there is a video. I did also see another bird in the car park. Now, believe it or not, I know very little about birds, and I don't know what it was. It was had like I think it was like pink or reddish. But I'll get on the internet when I get back and have a look. I think I'm going to give up on the herons today. I've took a few shots, but I don't think I've took anything that special. I've definitely got none of them coming into land. So those were the kind of photos that I wanted to kind of share and show, but I've seen none of that action at all. I've took a couple of the ducks, which have probably been the best shots of the day. I've got 10-15 minutes before I've got to head back, so I might just pop over there to the smaller birds and see if I can get any shots over there. So it turned out I actually managed to get a couple of shots. There was nothing special. I wanted to try and get some of the birds coming into land, but that really never happened. So the only kind of shots I got was the actual herons flying over. The lighting wasn't the best. It was, and the sun wasn't in the right kind of place really to make the pictures good. So I've had to do a bit of recovery on the shadows, but I won't waffle on too much, and we'll just get straight back into doing the editing. Okay, so this is the photo I've decided to see if I can polish. It's not very good, but we'll just do it anyway. Right, the first thing I normally do is I crop the image to where I want it, roughly around there. Do me for this, and I'll bring up the shadows to get some of the detail back. Next thing I'll do is I'll right click and I'll edit in Topaz denoise. Now the reason I do this is, even though the ISO is 320, which is okay, because I've increased the shadows, it's created a lot of noise in the darker parts. So once in Topaz denoise, I always go for the low light setting, because the clear always sharpens it too much for me, especially with Heron Photos. They look kind of fake anyway. So with the low light setting, I turn the enhance sharpness down and click apply. That will do its magic and open it back up in Lightroom once it's done. It doesn't take that long because I've cropped the image anyway, so it hasn't got that much to process. So that's kind of cleaned these areas up a little bit more. Next thing I want to do is maybe increase the vibrance a little bit and the saturation and the whites. Right click again and edit in Photoshop. When that's opened up in Photoshop, first thing to do is duplicate the layer. For this image, I'm going to have a quick look at the image settings at the top for auto tone, auto contrast and auto color. I think I'm going to start with using the auto tone. Now, although the background's a bit too white, I'm going to use the opacity and drop that down to about 40%. You can see the difference from the original. Next thing I do is I have a quick look around on the background to see if there's any sensor marks. Now, I did clean my sensor, but only with the blower, not with the proper sensor cleaning swabs, but it doesn't look too bad on this. Then I want to bring up some of the midtones, so I'll go to the dodge tool, make sure it's set to midtones and the exposure at 32%. I'm just going to paint over some of the darker areas that should be a bit lighter. Try and make the image not look as flat. I'm not going to overdo it. As I said, it's a heron, and Heron Photos look fake. So you've got the before, after, which is a little bit better. Save that again. Once that's opened back up in Lightroom, I don't like how white the background is, so I'm going to use the masking tool. Select background. I'm just going to lower the exposure a little bit and maybe add a touch more blue to it, somewhere around there. As you can see, it hasn't done a very good job of the mask. There's part here underneath the wing that's white, and here between the legs, and you will get bits between the wings in the very corners. So the simple thing to do for that is to go back into Photoshop and to repaint it in. So I'll close down in Photoshop the last edit and then reopen that back up in Photoshop. So duplicate the layer again. The quick way to get rid of this around here is to use the clone brush and make sure it's set to darken. Set the opacity to 38%. and then get as close as you can to the area you want to darken. Use Alt and then paint back in. Maybe turn the opacity up a little bit more. Keep playing with the opacity until you get it kind of right. And then the bit between feet. Always remember to use your clone to use it where you want to take the colour from, close to the area that you're darkening. Obviously you don't want to take it from down here because it'll be a different shade. What you often get as well is like a white fringing if you change the background after the mask. So again, you can use the same method and just go around the edges of any fringing that may be there. If I zoom in a bit, say here, you can see like white there and there. So use the same method. Just going to touch the sharpen brush on the eye and on the feet a little bit. That looks okay anyway, so save that. And obviously that opens back up in Lightroom. You'll see this disappear now. And that's about it. I might just maybe increase the whites a little bit, just to make it pop a little bit more. But that's it. I don't want to go too much because, as I said, it was pretty dark anyway. So comparing the original to what I've finished with, you can see I've kind of managed to get some of the details back. I'd probably spend a bit more time on it, getting the colours kind of right with the exposure, but that's more or less what it is. So that's it. As I said, I haven't gone too much into the editing because I'm a bit aware of how long this video already is, but I just wanted to make like a video that was a bit like a whole package rather than, you know, just the editing or just me taking the photos. So I hope this video has been a little bit more interesting than the past. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.